So everybody should have access to Emmet, and it's pretty easy to get access to in brackets. In brackets, what we can do is click on the Lego piece, and then you do a search for Emmet, and then you hit install. So that's all you really have to do. If you want to go to the webpage for Emmet, you can, and that gives you a download for basically any type of integrated development environment that you're using. So if you're using Atom, which some people are, even Dreamweaver, just about anything out there, CodePen, we'll go through CodePen a little bit, Sublime. So it gives you the downloads right there. So you can, you basically have the ability to use Emmet in just about anything. So it's a very, very universal type tool. So let's go through a couple different things that we can do with it, and just so you understand in more detail a little bit. And I need to, let's see, have two screens side by side. Let me see if I can. Okay, I'll have to do this. So on one side I'll have code, and on the other side I will show you some of these things with Emmet. So I'm going to create a new web page, new here, and I'm going to save it, and we'll call this Emmet practice. So I'll take you through a couple recipes with Emmet, and there's one in particular that I want you to think about when we're working on our project, this project coming up. To me, one of the most amazing shortcuts with Emmet is the exclamation point. So exclamation point tab, and that gives you your boilerplate right away. So that's a really good shortcut to use immediately. I think I showed you that, but if you forgot it, just hit exclamation point, and if you have Emmet installed, it's going to give you your boilerplate, right away. So exclamation point. So a couple other things though. So there's some more shorthand codes to think about with Emmet. So one is the plus sign. So what the plus sign does, it will have code come after each other. So if I go H1 plus P and then hit tab, you're going to get your header H1 and then your P tag, paragraph tag right after each other. So you can say H1 plus P plus another thing you can do is if you hit the period key and you create a class. So let's say I create a class called .info, then hit tab. What the dot will do, it will automatically give that class a div. So I'll do that again so you see it. So what I'm doing is I'm using the plus sign to create a list of elements in order. So they're basically sibling elements from top to bottom. And I will even go in here and say with a comment, the plus sign will create siblings in the order you specify. So I could go H1 plus P, but this is an additional thing that I'm adding into this formula. It's using the period to signify a class. And if I have that period in front of the class name, it's automatically going to turn that into a div. It's basically looking at this class and saying, oh, that should belong with a tag, and let's just make that tag a div. So that's using the plus symbol to create a sibling relationship. So another shortcut, this is kind of explaining that in more detail, is to use the number sign to create a index, or I'm sorry, an ID. So I can say ID first, and that's going to create a div with an ID of first. Or what you can do is you can say something like H1 number sign, and then type out that ID, and then it will make that H1 have an ID of second. And then the same thing works with the class. If I go P dot third, it's going to create a P tag with the class of third. The greater than sign creates a parent-child relationship. So this is what we're going to use in the navigation part of the little lecture that I'm talking about. If you want to create a quick unordered list, so the LI element is always a child of the UL element. So the UL is going to signify the type of list, and the LI is going to actually represent the item in that list. So if I say UL greater than symbol LI, it's going to create a list element inside an unnumbered list element, like that. It also works with, let's say you have a wrapper. So let's say you want to use a wrapper to wrap, to be a holder for other elements on the page. You can say wrapper greater than, and let's say you have another box inside the wrapper. So what this is going to do right here, where you see dot wrapper greater than symbol dot box, it's going to basically create a box, a div with a class of box inside a div with a class of wrapper. So I hit tab, and now I have this div with the class of box inside this div with the class of wrapper. So that's a nice little trick if you have things within things. You know, you have a hierarchy. You have a parent with children, then use the greater than symbol. And we'll use that again. I'll show you a more extensive example of that. So this example here is basically showing, multiple children. Actually, this is a really good example because a lot of time with lists, we might want to have a series of links and maybe even images in that series of list items. So what this will do is create a list item, which is going to be a link, and that link is actually an image. So it's where you can click on an image and go to somewhere else on the page or a different website. So basically what this does, and let me open it up, it's creating a link that uses an image as the link inside a list item. So this is the one I want to get into though, this nav. So there's a lot of interesting things happening here, and let me tell you what's going on with this. So we have the greater than symbol. So the greater than symbol is creating that parent-child relationship, but we also have a multiplier. And what the multiplier does, it will create multiple items. So let me show you the multiplier by itself first. If I say something like P times 5, it's going to create 5 P tags. So you can also say, or P greater than lorem, and that's it creates 5. Here's creating 5 span tags, and the lorem is generating this generic lorem ipsum text. But basically, the multiplier lets you create multiple elements based on the number that you choose. So another way to use it is with a list. So I can say UL, and then I would say greater than LI, because the LI is going to be an item in the list, and then I add my multiplier, and now I have this list with this unnumbered list with 4 list items. I can also say something like I I can also do this. I can say UL let's see, LI, and then I can give it a, inside the LI, what I can do is add content. So I can say something like pets, and then add the multiplier here. And what that does is it gives me a list, but it gives me content inside the list. And then the other thing I can do is at the end of pets, I can add a $sign. And what that will do is actually number that out. So now I hit tab and it says pets 1, pets 2, pets 3, and pets 4. So if I was creating a nav bar, what I could do is say something like this, UL, and we'll get into more detail on this, greater than, and say LI, and then inside my curly braces, I can say gallery, let's say, add the number sign, and then do times 4. And now I have 4 gallery listings here. So this is, this is basically what it looks like. So it's a quick way to generate this bullet point list with one line of code using Emmet. So to go a little deeper into this, let's say I wanted to create a list of links. So what I could do is say something like UL greater than LI, and then I'll have the times 4 here for that LI. But let's say I want to have 4 links vertically on the page. Then I can do that A tag again. So the A tag again is the link. And then for that link, I can adjust the attribute. So for the attribute, what you can do is to add an attribute using Emmet, you use your square brackets. So I can say href equals, and then inside here, basically what this will do is create 4 links to Google. You would never do that, but it's just going to show you how it can be done. So inside that href is the attribute for that href. You have the link to Google. And then I can actually, inside of that as well, add the text for the link, and then $sign again. And then if I hit tab, let me stretch it out a little bit. Now I have a list with 4 links to going to Google. So if I save this and we look at it, now I have my 4 links right here in that list. Really they would be different links, of course. But this is the beginning of what could be a nav bar. This is how we can start to create a nav bar for a multi-page website. And I'll go through this in more detail. Now, you don't necessarily have to use Emmet, but Emmet is just a quick little way to provide shorthand. What I like to do sometimes with some of these little shorthand codes is copy them and put them inside a comment. And I have more examples that I'll post after the class. And then when I have it all set there, I can always cut and paste it and reuse it. Because it's going to be hard to remember all of these formulas as they are, but as you get used to it, you'll figure out ways to do things quickly.